I didn't mean to stare. Honestly, I didn't. But there was something about the way the water ran down his chest, tracing each curve of muscle and every line I had ignored for years. My best friend Tyler stepped out of the steam, completely unaware of what that moment was about to do to me. It was the kind of split second where time froze and the air turned electric, a silence so loud it screamed. That one glance flipped our entire story on its head. We met in junior high, two awkward boys in band class who bonded over a shared hatred for the trumpet section and a mutual love for Halo 3. Tyler was all lanky limbs and sarcastic grins back then, with a charm that always seemed to work on girls, and never quite worked on me. I was quieter, more observant, the one who listened while Tyler filled every room with laughter. Through high school, we were inseparable. There were girls he dated, guys I pretended not to like, and secrets that never needed to be said aloud. Tyler didn't ask why I never brought anyone around, and I never asked why he stuck with girls who didn't really see him. We had an unspoken pact. Honesty, except when it came to feelings that could ruin everything. By college, we were roommates in a beat-up apartment with mismatched furniture, half-empty pizza boxes, and late-night runs to Taco Bell. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. Tyler started lifting weights, joined an amateur boxing club, and I just tried not to notice how much better his shirtless body looked every year. Now, years later, we were both 26, and living in a two-bedroom house we rented together after our careers stabilized. Tyler in marketing, me in freelance photography. We told people we were just saving money by splitting rent, but the truth was we couldn't imagine not coming home to the sound of the other's voice, or not having a partner in crime for every mundane or magical moment. It started like any other Saturday. Tyler was fixing up the grill in the backyard for our weekend barbecue, and I was inside editing photos from a wedding shoot. Music played softly, his favorite playlist full of indie bands and nostalgic 2000 hits. Around 4 p.m., he called through the open kitchen window. "You good in there, man? I'm gonna rinse off before Nate and them get here." I barely registered his words, just gave a lazy thumbs up from behind my screen. Minutes passed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I realized I'd left my phone in the bathroom, the same one Tyler was using. Normally, I wouldn't dare, but I was expecting a call from a client and couldn't risk missing it. I pushed the door open just as the water stopped running. And then, it happened. Tyler turned, droplets of water catching the light like diamonds across his skin, his body still steaming from the shower. For the first time, I saw him. Not just glanced, not just peeked, but saw him completely. And not like a friend sees a friend. I saw the man he'd become. Broad shoulders, firm chest, that damn smile that always played at the corner of his mouth. He didn't flinch. He didn't cover himself. He just looked at me. Eyes locked. The air thick and charged like before a storm. "You okay?" he asked, voice lower than usual, almost curious. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My heart was pounding in my ears, drowning out everything else. That look he gave me, it wasn't normal. It wasn't platonic. It was something else. I managed to mutter something stupid like, "Forgot my phone," grabbed it, and walked out like I wasn't falling apart inside. I didn't look back. I couldn't, but I felt his gaze burn into me, even after the door closed. We never talked about it that evening, but something had shifted. He sat closer than usual during the barbecue. His hand brushed mine twice. He laughed at jokes that weren't that funny. And when our friends left and it was just us on the couch again, there was silence. Not awkward, but heavy, thick with things unsaid. When he got up to go to bed, he hesitated, turned, looked at me, that same look. "Night, man," he said softly. "Night," I replied, my voice shaking just enough for him to notice. He didn't close his door all the way that night, and I didn't sleep. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds in the hallway. Footsteps, a door creaking, anything. My mind played that moment on repeat. The steam, the way the light hit his skin, the casual way he just stood there like it wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal. For me at least. I've seen Tyler shirtless 100 times. We've gone swimming, crashed at each other's places. Hell, we even shared a hotel bed in Miami once when we got stranded. But this was different. This time, I felt something. And for the first time, I didn't push it down. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to find him making breakfast like nothing had happened. Scrambled eggs, coffee already poured. Shirtless again. He looked over his shoulder and his eyes met mine, holding for a little too long. "Sleep okay?" he asked casually, flipping eggs like it wasn't a metaphor for my entire emotional state. I lied. "Yeah, you?" "Same," he said, then handed me a plate without another word. We sat across from each other in silence, eating, pretending we weren't two grown men avoiding the biggest elephant in the room either of us had ever seen. I tried to look away, but my eyes kept drifting. His forearms, the way his jaw tensed when he chewed, the curve of his back as he leaned over the table. This wasn't me being curious. This was more. "Hey," he said, interrupting my spiral. "You want to hit the gym later? Or chill here?" That was our thing. Sunday lifts, then tacos. It always was. But suddenly, the idea of seeing him sweaty, stretching, spotting me on a bench press, it made my heart race in ways it shouldn't have. "Let's just stay in today," I said quickly. "I've got edits to finish anyway." He nodded but didn't press. But later that day, he stayed home too. And that's when things started to shift. We were halfway through a rewatch of Stranger Things, lounging on opposite ends of the couch, a blanket draped across our legs. It was cozy, familiar, but then his foot brushed mine. At first, I thought it was accidental, and then it stayed. He didn't move it. Neither did I. That soft touch, just ankle to ankle, sent a pulse up my spine that short-circuited my thoughts. We both stared at the TV, pretending nothing was happening, but I could feel his heartbeat in his toes, or maybe it was mine. And then he shifted closer. Just a little, then again, and again. By the time the credits rolled, we were side by side, sharing one half of the couch, legs tangled, his arm now lazily draped along the backrest behind my neck. His fingers weren't touching me, but they hovered, close enough to feel the heat. "So," he said finally, voice low, uncertain, "about yesterday." I swallowed hard. "Yeah? That didn't feel like nothing." I turned to face him. His eyes didn't flinch. "No," I agreed. "It didn't." There was a long pause, one of those silences where the world seems to wait for your next move. His hand slipped down behind my neck and gently brushed my skin. I shivered. "You ever think about this?" he asked, barely a whisper. "All the time," I admitted, breath catching in my throat. His lips parted slightly, eyes scanning my face, and the room began to blur around the edges, like everything else ceased to matter. He leaned in, just a little, and I didn't move. His forehead touched mine, soft and tentative. My breath hitched, his fingers cupped the back of my head like he was holding something fragile. And then his phone buzzed on the coffee table. We both flinched. He pulled back, like the spell was broken. "Sorry," he mumbled, grabbing the phone and checking the screen. "It's Cassie. She left her jacket last night." Cassie, his most recent ex, the one who dumped him 3 weeks ago. I stood up too fast. "I'm gonna grab a shower." "Yeah," he said, voice tight. "Cool." And just like that, the moment was gone. As I stood under the hot water, my hands shaking slightly, I realized the truth. This was no longer one-sided. Whatever that was, whatever we were, it was changing. And neither of us knew what to do next. The water pounded against my shoulders, but it couldn't drown out the thoughts racing through my head. I leaned against the tile wall, eyes closed, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what was happening. The moment on the couch had shaken something loose, something we had buried under years of friendship, loyalty, and fear, and now there was no putting it back. After the shower, I stayed in my room longer than usual. I pretended to work, I stared at emails, I watched the sun creep across the wall, I waited for a knock that didn't come. Eventually, I cracked the door and peeked into the hallway. His door was closed, no sounds, just silence again. But when I stepped into the living room, I found him curled up in the corner of the couch, hoodie pulled over his head, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. Except everything had. He looked up when he heard me and held my gaze for a moment too long. Then he slid his phone into his pocket and patted the spot next to him. "Sit." I did. We sat in silence, not awkward, but tense, like the moment was full of something we were both afraid to name. He finally spoke. "You know I've never really had a best friend like you before, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, me neither. I think that's what's messing with my head. Like, this isn't just anyone, it's you." There was a tightness in my chest I couldn't explain, but I knew exactly what he meant. "Same," I said. "It's not the idea of a guy, it's you. Always been you." He stared ahead for a long time, then slowly turned his head toward me. His face was softer now, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen it. "I think I liked it," he said. The air between us trembled. "What part?" He swallowed. "All of it. The glance, the couch, you." I shifted closer, not touching yet, just near enough that the air between our knees warmed. "Then why pull away?" He looked down at his hands. "Because I didn't know what it meant. If I leaned in and kissed you, what happens the next morning? What if you regret it? What if I do?" "I wouldn't," I said quietly. "Not even a little." He finally looked back up, and this time his eyes didn't drift. They locked onto mine, searching for something. Permission, maybe, or courage. He reached out, his fingers brushing the back of my hand. I turned mine, lacing our fingers together slowly. His palm was warm, calloused, familiar in the way that only years of closeness can make someone feel. "I've never done this before," he whispered. "I know," I said, "but you don't have to figure it all out right now. Just feel it." We sat there, holding hands like it was the first time we'd ever touched. And in a way it was. Not in the way best friends roughhouse or slap each other's backs. This was different. It was real, intimate, heavy with meaning. After a while, he leaned his head against my shoulder, exhaling like he'd been holding his breath all day. "I don't want this to ruin us," he said. "It won't," I promised, heart thudding. He stayed there for a long time, his body relaxed against mine, fingers never letting go. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't sex. But it was everything. and it felt like the beginning of something we didn't have words for yet. That night, he didn't go to his room. We didn't talk about it. We didn't make a big deal, and we just fell asleep on the couch, tangled in the warmth of each other's presence, like the universe was finally letting us admit what we'd been pretending not to feel for far too long. The sun crept in through the blinds, casting soft gold light across the living room. I woke up first, my neck stiff from the couch, my arm still loosely wrapped around him. He was still asleep, his face relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. There was something beautiful about seeing him like this, unguarded, peaceful, pressed so close to me that I could feel his steady breath against my neck. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to break the moment. But reality always finds a way in. He stirred, eyes fluttering open, confusion clouding his expression for half a second, until he saw me. And then something shifted. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned in a little, head resting gently against my chest, as if this had been normal all along. "Morning," he mumbled, voice rough and groggy. "Hey," I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. We lay there in silence for a while, pretending the outside world didn't exist. Eventually, he sat up and stretched, the blanket falling from his shoulders, exposing his bare skin to the morning light. I watched him, heart thudding in my chest, unsure of whether to speak or stay silent. He looked at me with a half smile. "You gonna stare every time I take my shirt off now?" "Probably," I said, not even trying to hide the truth. He laughed, a soft, nervous laugh that felt more like a question than a joke. But then, instead of getting up or walking away, he scooted closer again, resting a hand on my thigh. "I've been thinking," he said carefully, "about what this means, about what I want." I didn't breathe. And he took a long breath. "I think I want more, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to screw this up. You matter too much to me." "You matter to me too," I said, placing my hand over his. "And maybe we don't have to figure it out all at once. Maybe we just let it happen." He nodded slowly, eyes searching mine. "You're okay with this? With me?" "More than okay," I said. "I've wanted this for a long time. I just never thought that I'd feel the same." I nodded. "Well, I didn't," he said, and for a second my stomach dropped, until he continued. "Not at first, but lately I've been noticing things, like how you look when you're concentrating, how you bite your lip when you're nervous, how you've always shown up for me, even when I didn't deserve it." He leaned in, hand sliding up my arm, fingers grazing my neck. "I didn't know what to call it," he whispered, "but now I think I do." And then finally his lips found mine. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't explosive. It was slow, tender, full of years of closeness and unspoken feelings. His hand cradled my cheek, his thumb brushing gently across my skin, as his lips moved with mine like we'd been doing this forever. I melted into him, kissing back with everything I had, every question in my mind fading away under the pressure of his mouth. When we pulled apart, our foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the quiet. "Still scared?" I asked. "Yeah," he admitted, "but not enough to stop." We spent the rest of the day like that, hovering in the space between best friends and something more, stealing kisses in the kitchen, sitting too close on the porch, whispering things we never had the courage to say out loud before. He didn't say he was gay, he didn't label anything, and I didn't need him to. All I needed was what I saw in his eyes every time he looked at me now. Clarity, curiosity, and something dangerously close to love. Whatever this was becoming, it was real, and it was only just beginning. The days that followed felt like a dream. Every moment carried a quiet tension, a thrilling undercurrent that buzzed just beneath the surface of our normal routines. We still did the things we always did. Ate breakfast together, binge-watched shows, made dumb jokes. But everything had changed. Now there were lingering touches, playful nudges, long glances that neither of us tried to hide anymore. When I passed him in the hallway, his hand would brush my waist. When he laughed at something I said, he'd squeeze my knee. And at night, the couch became our refuge, where we curled under the same blanket, kissed slowly, carefully, like we were still learning each other's language. But the line we hadn't crossed yet was starting to pulse between us, almost humming with anticipation. It wasn't pressure, it wasn't desperation, it was desire, mutual, patient, and growing louder by the day. One evening, it finally cracked open. We had just finished dinner, something simple, just pasta and wine, and the air between us felt heavy with something unspoken. He cleared the plates, our fingers touching briefly as I handed him mine, and the contact made both of us freeze. He didn't pull away. Instead, he stepped closer. He looked at me, really looked, and said, barely above a whisper, "I think about you all the time." I swallowed hard. "Yeah?" He nodded, his voice more certain now. "Like every part of you. The way you smile, the way you look when you're tired, the way you touched me that night. I can't stop thinking about it." My breath caught. "I want to be close to you," he continued. "Not just here." He pointed to his chest. "But here too." He reached for my hand and brought it to his lips, kissing my knuckles like something out of a movie. And then, without breaking eye contact, He backed away slowly toward his bedroom, holding my hand the entire time until I was standing right in front of him. "Come with me?" he asked softly. I didn't hesitate. The door clicked shut behind us, and suddenly the world narrowed down to just the two of us and the quiet sound of our breathing. He stepped in front of me, fingers trembling slightly as he reached for the hem of my shirt, pausing just long enough to give me the chance to stop him. I didn't. He pulled it over my head, letting it fall to the floor, then his own, and suddenly we were standing chest to chest, skin to skin, every breath shared. I pressed my hands against his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heart. He leaned in, brushing his lips against mine. Not in a rush, but in a way that told me he was sure now. Sure of what he wanted, sure of me. Our kiss deepened, and his hands explored my back, my arms, my waist, like he was trying to memorize every inch of me. I kissed his neck, feeling him shudder beneath my mouth, and when he let out a soft gasp, I felt it echo in my own chest. We fell into bed together slowly, clumsily, laughing between kisses and tangled sheets. There was nothing perfect about it, nothing polished, but it was honest and raw and ours. We took our time, we touched, we tasted, we whispered things we'd never said to anyone else. His hands roamed my body like he'd been waiting years to finally let go of the restraint. My fingers traced his spine, pulling him closer, needing every inch of him against me. And when we finally moved together, bodies joined, hearts pounding, it felt like something sacred. Like the years of friendship, the jokes, the fights, the late-night talks. All of it had led to this. It wasn't just sex. It was something deeper, more dangerous, and more beautiful. After we lay in silence, breathless and sweaty and holding onto each other like the world might tear us apart if we let go, his head rested on my chest, fingers gently drawing circles on my stomach. "I don't know what to call this," he murmured. "You don't have to call it anything," I said. "Just don't let it go." He kissed my chest right over my heart. "I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment, for the first time since all of this started, I believed him. Morning light spilled into the room, casting soft lines across the sheets twisted around our legs. I woke before he did, my hand still draped over his waist. Our bodies naturally fitted together like puzzle pieces that had taken years to fall into place. His back rose and fell slowly against me, the warmth of his skin comforting in a way I didn't know I'd needed so badly until I had it. I pressed a light kiss to his shoulder, half expecting him to stir, but he just let out a soft sigh and nuzzled deeper into the pillow. I stayed like that for a while, holding him, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. The night before played through my mind in vivid flashes. His hands, his voice, the way he'd looked at me like he saw everything and still wanted more. I'd thought once that something like that could only happen in stories, that a friendship like ours wasn't supposed to cross that line. But it had. And now nothing could convince me that it wasn't the most real thing I'd ever felt. Eventually he woke up, turning slowly in my arms. His eyes were still sleepy, his hair a mess, and I'd never seen anything so perfect. "Hey," he said softly, a lazy smile creeping across his lips. "Hey," I murmured, brushing his hair back with my fingers. He reached up, touching my face. "You okay?" I nodded. "More than okay. You?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned forward and kissed me, slow, deep, like we had all the time in the world. His fingers slid down my chest, pausing just above my hip. "I've never felt anything like that," he whispered against my mouth. I kissed him again, harder this time, and we moved together under the sheets like the night before had only been the beginning. There was no hesitation anymore, no second guessing. His hands knew exactly where to go now, exploring, claiming, learning. My body responded to him like it had always been meant for this, meant for him. He straddled me gently, our eyes locked as he moved, his hands on my chest, my waist, his lips finding my throat and collarbone and jaw. We didn't speak, but we didn't need to. Every breath, every touch, every rhythm was a conversation. When it was over, we lay there again, skins slick with sweat, tangled in each other's arms. This time, he didn't pull away. We talked softly in the quiet after, wrapped in the kind of intimacy that words can't really touch. He told me things he'd never said to anyone, about how he used to wonder why he never quite felt whole with the girls he dated, how he'd pushed thoughts away for years because he didn't know what they meant. "I think I was scared," he admitted, his head resting against my shoulder. "Scared that if I let myself want you, I'd lose you." "You didn't lose me," I whispered. "You found me." He looked up, something like awe in his eyes. "So what now? Do we just keep doing this?" I laughed gently, running a thumb along his cheek. "We take it one step at a time. No pressure. Just us." He nodded, lips curving into a slow, genuine smile. "Just us." The rest of the day passed in a haze of soft kisses, shared showers, lazy touches, and whispered promises. He made us coffee in his boxers, danced in the kitchen while I watched him like he was the only thing in the world. We didn't leave the house. We didn't need to. For the first time in years, there was no pretending, no hiding, no questions. Just two best friends, finally letting themselves love each other out loud. We didn't tell anyone. Not yet. It wasn't because we were ashamed or unsure or hiding. It was because we wanted this, whatever it was becoming, to be ours for just a little longer, untouched by questions or labels or the noise of the outside world. But keeping it to ourselves made everything sharper. Every stolen glance in public, every small touch that lingered a second too long, every quiet night in that now felt like its own secret universe. We were living in a kind of suspended magic. That week we still went about our lives. He went to work, came home, tossed his keys in the bowl by the door like always. I edited photos at the kitchen table, headphones in, pretending not to notice when he leaned down behind me just to press his lips to my neck before walking away. But at night, that was ours. We slept in the same bed now. No more couch, no more hesitation. It started with falling asleep tangled in each other's limbs and waking up halfway through the night with his arms around me like a blanket. But slowly it became more. There was one night, it was raining outside, that kind of soft, constant drizzle that makes the whole world feel muted. We lit candles, watched a movie, and somewhere between the first act and the end credits, he shifted closer, pulled me onto his lap and kissed me like he was claiming something he'd always been afraid to want. I straddled him, my hands slipping under his shirt, feeling his muscles tighten as our bodies pressed together. The kiss turned desperate, deeper, his fingers sliding under my waistband, dragging my hips forward until every inch of me was pressed against him. We didn't make it to the bedroom that night. The couch became our altar. He pulled my shirt off with a kind of hunger I hadn't seen in him before. His hands traced my sides, my chest, my back, like he was learning me all over again. I kissed him hard, pushed him down gently, his breath catching as I moved over him, unbuttoning his jeans, feeling the heat of him rise with every second. He gasped my name, his voice low, urgent, and the way he said it nearly undid me. We didn't speak after that, not until we were lying together, the storm outside mirroring the wild rhythm we just shared. He was on his side, head propped up on one hand, his fingers drawing invisible lines along my chest. "I don't think I've ever felt this connected to someone," he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I turned to face him, brushing his hair out of his eyes. "You don't have to figure everything out right now. We're allowed to just feel it." He nodded slowly, leaning down to kiss me again. Softer now, slower, but no less intense. Still, I knew something was brewing beneath the surface. The way he'd been looking at his phone more, the way he paused before answering when I asked if everything was okay, the silence in his eyes sometimes, like a cloud passing over the sun. That night, as we lay there in the dark, he said something that made the hair on my arms stand up. "What if I'm not enough for this?" he whispered. "What if I mess this up and lose you?" I turned and wrapped my arms around him, holding him tightly against me. "You're already enough," I said into his ear. "You've always been enough." But I knew, deep down, that something was coming, and it wouldn't be gentle. The next morning, the silence was different. He kissed me goodbye before leaving for work, but there was hesitation in his touch, like something was pulling him away even before he stepped out the door. I tried to ignore it, tried to believe it was just in my head, but the knot in my stomach said otherwise. That afternoon, I found his hoodie tossed over the kitchen chair, his keys missing, his scent still clinging to the fabric. I pulled it over my head and sat on the couch, trying to edit photos, trying to focus, but all I could do was replay everything. His laugh, the way his body curled into mine when he was half asleep, the way he kissed me like he needed it to breathe. Hours passed, then the door opened. He stepped in, slow, his face unreadable. I stood, my chest tight. "Hey, hey," he said, voice low. He didn't come closer. He looked tired, or sad, or scared. Maybe all three. Something in me braced. "I went to see Cassie today," he said quietly. That hit harder than I expected. I nodded slowly. "Okay. She reached out a few days ago, said she wanted to talk. I didn't tell you because I didn't want it to be a thing. I didn't even know if I'd go, but I did." My mouth was dry. "And?" He sat down, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. "She said she misses me, that she thinks we made a mistake." My heart sank, but I stayed still. "Do you?" He looked up, eyes pained. Number I don't, but it messed with my head. I sat beside him, not touching him, just there. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Because what we have, it's real, and that makes it even scarier." With her, I knew what it looked like. I could walk into a room and say, "That's my girlfriend," and no one blinked. But with us, I don't know who I am yet. I don't know how people will look at me. At us. I reached over, finally taking his hand. "You don't have to have all the answers today," I said, "but I need to know if you're in this with me. Even if it's messy, even if it's slow, even if we're still figuring it out." He was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, his fingers tightened around mine. "I am," he said. "I'm in. I'm just trying to catch up with everything I feel." I nodded. "We've got time." He leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. "I don't want to lose you. Not over fear, not over some old story I used to tell myself about who I thought I was supposed to be." "You're not losing me," I whispered. "Not now, not ever." We sat like that for a while, quiet and close. The fear still there, but now something stronger underneath it, a foundation. Later that night, we lay in bed, tangled together again, the weight of the conversation slowly giving way to peace. He pulled the blanket around us, tucked his face into my neck. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "For being weird today, I just needed to face some ghosts." "It's okay," I said, stroking his back. "As long as you come back." "I will," he whispered. "I always will." The rain returned that night, soft and constant, drumming against the window like a lullaby. And in the dark, beneath the warmth of the covers and the weight of everything we'd been through, we found something that felt like the start of forever. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And for the first time in our lives, we weren't just best friends. We were something more. Something neither of us had words for, but we didn't need them anymore. We had each other. What did you think of the story? Did you feel the tension, the emotions, the buildup? Was there a moment that hit you the hardest or surprised you the most? Leave a comment below and tell me. Who was your favorite character? Did the ending land the way you expected or totally twist your heart? Should there be a sequel or bonus scene?